morning, we will say the Our Father prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Good morning, honorable members. At the suspension, we were debating a compendium of bills. I presume we are now ready. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise again in this honorable place during this penitential season of Lent because the Lord has seen fit to wake me up and clothe me in my right mind. And Madam Speaker, you know, we often have that demonstrated to us as members of Parliament, as every weekend, more or less, there is the celebration of the life of somebody who was not awakened that day. And it was very poignant this weekend for me, Madam Speaker, as at Camp Road Ministries, the life of Tracy Sands, a 35-year-old mother, was celebrated. A mother who had just given birth to a son. And within a week, God saw fit to take her. And that was poignant, Madam Speaker, because I remarked at the service, she is the same age as my daughter, my first child. And so when we say these things, sometimes we get a little casual about it. But God has a way of demonstrating to us that it is a real privilege to be in the land of the living. Madam Speaker, I also owe this privilege to the good people of Freetown, who I am honored to serve and to speak for in this place. Madam Speaker, we're debating the mid-year budget statement together with 4 bills and a number of borrowing resolutions. The midterm budget statement is often largely uncontroversial. Certainly for the ministry and agency that I represent, Madam Speaker, there are no substantive changes to the allocations allotted thereto. And so, Madam Speaker, it is usually a time to discuss what has happened thus far and for the opposition an opportunity to complain. I recorded something that St. Barnabas said in his contribution, and I think as we approach 2026, and I think they now understand that there is not going to be an election before 2026, although they seem to have thought otherwise up to this point. St. Barnabas said this: governments aren't judged by whether they're better than the other party, but whether you keep your promises. That seems a bit deceptive until you realize, Madam Speaker, that what that seeks to do is to avoid accountability for your actions in government, to avoid accountability for your policies. Because everyone would know, Madam Speaker, and I was taught it as a child, you aim high. You will set many goals. If you accomplish every single one of your goals, that means you did not set your target high enough, because you should always be seeking for something else. And so when they say, for instance, that we in the PLP are saying we're going to wipe every tear from every eye, the actual aim of the PLP is to attempt to wipe every tear from every eye. Because we know, Madam Speaker, there are many problems, and our key and our aim is to address as many as possible. but the statement of the member of St. Barnabas discloses the strategy of the opposition. It is not to be compared with us. It is to say they promised you 10 things. They've only delivered 9. And so you should hold the one thing they didn't deliver against them. Or if you're ambitious and you promise 10 things and you accomplish 5, you then have that as a point of complaint. That is their strategy. And I'm going to demonstrate that shortly, Madam Speaker. And then that's what they do openly. But then there appear to be persons who I would describe as minions, who go about doing far more malicious things. And so you have the ridiculous assertion that somehow the PLP is corrupt, when, if one looks at the record, I think the only party who had an official convicted of corruption, notwithstanding my yeoman's effort as his counsel to prevent it, was the FNM. And so, Madam Speaker, you have openly a running from comparison, and then behind the scene with minions, you have this shadow character assassination, which St. Barnabas says they do not partake in because they want to argue over policies and not people. So let me demonstrate, Madam Speaker, why they cannot compare to us. You know, Sinead O'Connor has this song, "Nothing Compares to You." Hey. And so, now he covered Sinead O'Connor's song. She did it originally. But, Madam Speaker, what one sees, for instance, is, and I'm going to do both together. We, the member for Tall Pines, bought 15 ambulances, 15. I don't know how many they bought. I don't think they bought many, if one, but they didn't buy 15. And then the minions say they are standard shift, that's a problem, and they are slim, notwithstanding that to get through traffic, you don't want a very large, broad vehicle. But you have the ability, when you cannot measure up to buying 15 ambulances, to complain about their transmission and their size. And then, Madam Speaker, the member for Tall Pines also managed to have under construction and well completed 10 new clinics, and has refurbished 52. And so what we hear going backward and forward in this debate is that there is a piece of equipment that he doesn't want to pollute the atmosphere for Grand Bahamians, and so waste has to be transported, and so it has to be on the ground for a period before it's transported. And rather than celebrate the 10 clinics, the 52 refurbished, the health campus coming out of the ground, the new hospital aimed for here, they talk about the mechanisms around the transportation of waste. And that's what they do, because nothing compares to us, Madam Speaker. Certainly they don't. And then, Madam Speaker, they talk about tourist numbers, arrivals. And you know the very strange thing, Madam Speaker, when they talk about our arrivals are flat. Pay close attention to it. They're comparing arrivals from 2024 to arrivals in 2023. Well, who was in power 2023? And then they compare it to 2022. And who was in power in 2022? And so you have this.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marcus City. Madam Speaker, I would like to refer the member from Freetown to the Caribbean tourism numbers, which are populated in large measure by figures sent to them by the Bahamian government. So during one of the presentations I made in this place, contrary to what he has said to the public, we were drawing on figures posted on international websites, supplied to them by the Bahamian government, and what it clearly showed is in terms of stopover visitors, and I was very specific, from the state of Florida coming into the Bahamas have been flat. And in fact, you see a corresponding increase in cruise passengers from Florida in particular, and a decline in stopover visitors. So this is not we didn't fabricate it. It's not Free National Movement numbers. It's government numbers that they have supplied to, again, to the Caribbean Tourism Organization and others. So no, this is not us fabricating anything.
I didn't actually say they fabricated the numbers, Madam Speaker. What I said was the numbers that were compared was 2024 to 2023, and then 2022. I did not, Madam Speaker, make any suggestion that anyone made up any numbers. And so I don't know if there's a degree of guilt over something, but I didn't suggest it.
The chair recognizes Marcus City. I don't know who he is referring to that compares only 2023, but I know he is familiar with the remarks that I made, and I gave you an extended period to look at. Go back and look at over the last 3 years you have been in. Go back even further, and what you will see is a decline in stopover visitors. And my point then was, as it is now, we should be coming up with a strategic plan on how to increase stopover visitors, working in tandem with each other, rather than patting yourself on the back for contributing to converting us into a cruise destination versus a stopover destination. Because if your mindset is you want to celebrate an increase in cruise, what you end up doing is not sufficiently allocating resources, financial and otherwise, to us developing a plan to increase stopover visitors. That was the original point.
Madam Speaker, I don't intend to get involved in a backward and forward, because the Minister of Tourism did compare 2019 or 2018, their high year, with 2023. The reality of it, Madam Speaker, is this. We just heard that we should be getting together and coming up with a plan. That is the height of arrogance, because it assumes that he knows what is happening in the Ministry of Tourism. The Minister of Tourism in this place has on a number of occasions said that one of the challenges to stopover visitors is room capacity. And we have been addressing how room capacity can be addressed. And so when one talks about we have to get together and we have to do this thing because you're not doing it, that's a massive assumption that assumes I know everything. And so, Madam Speaker, the question being asked from the seat of what are you doing is what you do first. That's the process. And they have tabled a gang of questions and haven't asked any question to discover that. Madam Speaker, the next issue one looks at is this. When one looks at tax collection, they say, oh, we're making money off the backs of Bahamians because tax revenue has increased. Now, Madam Speaker, it was said, how is it that you charge lower tax and collect more money? I thought it was obvious. I learned that for GCE economics that I took at Kingsway Academy. And I remember, because I didn't have plenty of time to go out to BAISS. You see, we used to get beat every year, religiously, badly. And so I focused on the books, and the books tell me that there is a curve that tells you if you charge too high a tax, your net revenue is going to fall, And as you approach the optimal tax with the actual same productivity, your tax receipts will increase. It's the Laffer curve. Everybody who did GCE economics back in my day would have been familiar with that concept. Now, Madam Speaker, the other amazing thing about the VAT revenue that they don't seem to grasp is that the more economic activity you have, the more tax you collect. And so, for instance, Madam Speaker, these very same cruise passengers who have to pay VAT on their private islands as they increase by millions, and you have that $144 per person, and you increase that by 1 million persons, that's $147 million, out of which you get VAT. And so the very same thing that they decry is what could drive additional revenue. And what is also very troubling, Madam Speaker, is that they are told that we have reduced it to 10%, and we're reducing it again. So that's reducing the burden on the taxpayer. And Yamakro has already showed us what the medications are, what these famous breadbasket items are. But we're going to 5%, Madam Speaker. And you know what happened then, Madam Speaker? My good friend, the member for St. Anne's, picked up the VAT bill. There are, Madam Speaker, from page 5 to page 72, 67 pages of items that are reduced to 5%. But you know what he went to immediately? Us. Now,
What did he continue to do?
us. Now, Madam Speaker, I don't eat ass, right? Sorry?
Madam
The chair
Speaker,
recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
I'm an F&M, Madam Speaker. I never go directly to ask. What I refer to is what is listed in the fourth schedule, Madam Speaker, and that is the meat of asses. So one of the items that this government is promoting a 5% decrease on by way of VAT is the meat of asses, the meat of horses, shark fins, sharks, dogfish, Madam Speaker, walruses, Madam Speaker, a number of items that they've not paid attention to and are not fit for Bahamian consumption, Madam Speaker.
On the hand side, please. Please. Strike ass from the records. You couldn't say horse. The two of you. And there? Don't say it, man. Say horse.
Madam Speaker, to address your sensibilities, Madam Speaker, as somebody who makes a living by using words, I'll use a different word. It's the donkey that they eat in Inagua. They actually, after I came from the house, I was told, and people run me down to tell me that yes, Bahamians do eat donkey. And you know, the other side has this bad habit of wanting to tell us what we should eat. They want us to eat corned beef and canned fish, only as meat, because that's what they keep focusing on in these breadbasket items. So just for the public's edification, the list of items, the 57 pages of items here, is lifted directly from the customs book. Now, if you don't eat donkey, don't eat donkey. That's all. I don't eat donkey. I don't eat the word that they have in here for donkey either. So I'm not too concerned with it. But Madam Speaker,
Let him do his presentation. You know what?
Madam Speaker, I know people think I may be being gratuitous. But I just found that amazing. But I looked to see if what I eat was in these 57 pages. That was my focus. And so, Madam Speaker, what they also don't mention is things like, they talk about we're chasing real property tax, but they don't mention that the threshold has moved from $250,000 to $300,000. And we've permitted you to claim it now on duplexes and triplexes so long as you occupy one of the units. And so these are the things that, because they cannot compare to us, and Angliston is correct, that Prince or the symbol or whatever he ended his life at wrote nothing compared and gave it to his band, who was not as impressive as Sinead O'Connor when she performed it. So I'm always one to say when I'm wrong. Madam Speaker, they cannot compare to us, and so they bring up this debacle about supposedly police officers who have not reached the age of 65, who've not even reached the age of 60, who are retained year to year after they reach the very early retirement age, and defense force persons who are retained, and corrections persons who are retained. And you know, Madam Speaker, it is unfortunate that that is what they chose to do. But they did that, Madam Speaker, because they cannot compare, when they talk about us preferring senior people, that the numbers of young recruits my ministry and the agencies have recruited to the police force, to the defense force, and to the Department of Corrections. We recruited more in 20 months than they did in 4.5 years. And we continue to recruit every year. In fact, the police is settling a squad of 200 now, because that's the maximum of the training college in New Providence and in Grand Bahama, where they will be in simultaneously. And by the way, Madam Speaker, we have been recruiting and training persons for the fire service, because that is something else that was not done by those who preceded us. And so, Madam Speaker, that is why there is this rush not to compare, but I intend to continue doing it, Madam Speaker, because the next thing on my list is a lot of them talk about this moorings thing. Well, let me say this about the moorings thing, Madam Speaker, and I will compare it to something they did. At least we can find the moorings document. At least we can find the moorings document. We still can't find the Oban documents. And so when you want to look at who is transparent, the moorings is a classic example of it. But what they do not let people know, Madam Speaker, is it was a regulator who stopped the work. A regulator doing their job who stopped the work. But they don't want that to be in the open. And then they talk about conflict of interest, Madam Speaker, and a conflict of interest only arises with a person who is a decision maker. And the person who they claim has the conflict is not a decision maker. And I've said this before in another place, that a clear conflict of interest is my predecessor signing his own security license and then getting a contract to provide security at the Buju Bantan concert when ministers of national security are asked to give a view on the entry into this country of convicted criminals. Now, I don't have anything against Buju. You know, I might have been there saying free Buju as well. But the fact of the matter is that if you have to exercise a judgment, take a decision as to whether you say yay or nay, it looks very bad if your security firm ends up with the contract that relates to the concert that you have just cleared. That is an example of a conflict of interest, because that's a decision maker. Moving quickly on, Madam Speaker, they talk about a housing crisis, and they try to walk this back to say they did these subdivisions. Their housing policy, since we're debating policy, was as a matter of policy, they were not going to build one house. You build it yourself. So the mother who is struggling has to contest with a contractor, not the government who has a lot of borrowing power, who can make contractors do things that small people can't. So their policy was not to build any houses. And from my office, Madam Speaker, I look out over the subdivision they told young people they would have, and it's bush. You can't even see no road cut through it to suggest that they had done any surveys. That was their housing policy, Madam Speaker, bush. Our housing policy is to build homes. Madam Speaker, I think that, bearing in mind the time, I better move quickly to my ministry and agencies. As I say, the allocations have remained the same. But we get this cry that is really disturbing. East Grand Bahama started it, and I wrote down what he said as well. He says he is outraged by the circumstance in which the young man was killed in front of his daughter. And the cries for justice are going unanswered. And communities are left to fend for themselves. And crime continues to spiral, he says. The first thing, Madam Speaker, is that crime is down, except for the heinous crime of murder, sexual offenses, and car stealing, which seems to be more and more done now by people taking persons' scarves from in front of their homes. That's the reality. So this crime spiral is not accurate and debases the effort of the Royal Bahamas Police Force and the community that is keeping all other types of crime under control and falling. But you know, Madam Speaker, outrage is something that we've had for quite some time. We were outraged when the mother and her son was killed in their bed while sleeping in Adley Street. I believe that was during some other administration. We were outraged when the woman going to prayer meeting was shot. We were outraged a number of times. And if you're just outraged, that doesn't affect anything. I'll give you an example, Madam Speaker. Father Scott Jupp was the subject of an armed robbery of the church's car at gunpoint. And you know what Father Jupp did? Rather than saying he's going to be outraged, he started a mentoring for young men in the surrounding areas. And his logic, which makes perfect sense, is that clearly something went wrong with that young man that put a gun in my face, so I'm going to do what I can do to make sure that I reduce the number of those young men. Yes. And that is how you respond to crime. And so when we just sponsor outrage without a purpose, and the purpose must be, as we say, how do we react to it? And some may say, well, Father Jupp is a priest, and that's why he could do that, because he's trained for that. We're all supposed to love our neighbors, and he's just a shining example of how you can respond positively to matters like that. But you know, Madam Speaker, it's not just him, it's Andy and Nancy Knowles who does Let's Swim Bahamas in the schools. And because they have the support from the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, when last year they had 1,000 students, they now have 1,300 students. Where last year they operated in 8 of the Ministry of Education schools. They now operate in 14. Last year, when they did 8,200 lessons, they now do 10,500 lessons this year, from September to February year. That is what you do when you are not comfortable with what is happening. And the National Youth Guard, the vision of the Prime Minister in its 4th cohort. Prime Minister, now we have 105 persons. And what is unique and remarkable is 60 of them are young men and 45 are women. So the young men are coming around. And then we have urban renewal, where the members for Carmichael and Marathon.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Marco City.
Madam Speaker, one of the points made by the member for Freetown when he sought to chastise the member for East Grand Bahama is that he's outraged without action, as if he was simply cherry-picking what this administration has not gotten right. In this House, we have reported 21 associations in the Free National Movement launch anti-violence, anti-crime initiatives. 21 associations. So I want to put on the public record, contrary to the impression that Freetown is trying to create, that in opposition, associations are working with different stakeholders, including government agencies, in launching anti-crime initiatives, including anti-violence initiatives. And next Wednesday, what we'll do is we'll lay a record of that to answer the point made by Freetown.
Thank you, honorable member.
You know, Madam Speaker, that's the second time Marco City has suggested that I said something that I didn't say. But, you know, I remember Proverbs 23:7 that talks about the heart of a man. But the reality is, I never suggested any such thing. Pushing outrage, just as outrage is not a solution, is what I said. And if he would wish to say that they now understand this government's position, that the answer to crime is an all of government, all of society effort, I'm happy to hear that. I'm very happy to hear that. But Carmichael and Marathon, the Urban Renewal Authority is there, and it's working. And that, Madam Speaker, is what is happening. But Madam Speaker, you know, the other end of the 5 pillars, because the Prime Minister has asked me to have particular focus on rehabilitation and prevention, because we have a constitutionally autonomous Commissioner of Police to deal with policing, although we deal with the clear hold build policy that is preventative along with them. But on rehabilitation, Madam Speaker, the public should know there are 1,500 inmates currently at BDOCs, of which 1,018 are sentenced. The others are on remand. And of the sentenced, 985, or 97%, have a release date. So 985 persons in that facility have been given a date that they're expected to be released. The importance, therefore, on focusing on rehabilitation must be noted. Yes. And one would see, Madam Speaker, that we now have, for the first time, a juvenile detention facility in that campus for persons who are young. We now have, Madam Speaker, work on a female version of it. We now have, Madam Speaker, inmate industries up and running so that inmates, one, are occupied during the day, earning monies so that they're not broke, unemployed, and with a criminal record when they're released. And to address this position of visits, I was told that I approved the visit of the opposition members to the prison. I was told they had a good view and were very encouraging. The commissioner said they were very encouraging and supportive, so I give them that. What he did say is that they had this issue that on taking government, their view is that in-person visits must resume as before. Now, I said in this House when pressed on it, and I said I would address it, is that we follow advice from correctional experts. And the advice is that an inmate should have the option of a video visitation as often as he wishes. And so that's what is being done and set up. Persons are coming in, meeting, being registered for video visitation. I'm told that, I'm not sure if they were advised of the Grow Your Child program, which is a program to keep men and inmates connected to their families. And that program calls for families to come into the facility and actually interact with the inmate on a more intimate level than any visit would. And so, Madam Speaker, I'm going to ask for 2 minutes max more because I want to move on to the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, who we continue to increase manpower, and who, Madam Speaker, we continue also to provide them with equipment. And we hope in the next budget cycle to improve the accommodations on my hometown, Ragged Island, where they live in containers and have lived in containers for a while. But before I could finish, Madam Speaker, we were told about how governments are judged. And I want to read something, Madam Speaker. I was very touched over the weekend, and I shared it with the member for Tall Pines. One of our servicemen, an able seaman, Anderson, he wrote me this, Madam Speaker. He says, "Good day, sir. I'm home today reflecting on my journey, and I felt the need to reach out and express my sincere gratitude to the PLP government. I was injured while serving on the Royal Bahamas Defense Force in 2019 under the F&M administration and endured years of delayed medical care. It was a difficult time, but once the PLP government took office, I was finally able to undergo 4 spinal surgeries to help improve my quality of life. I just wanted to take a moment to say thank you. Your leadership and commitment made a real difference to my life, and I truly appreciate it." Madam Speaker, this was a young, able seaman, I believe at the age of 21 or 22, not much more than that, who, while on board the HMBS Bahamas, had a slip down a set of stairs and severely injured his spine. And Madam Speaker, when he came to see me, it was truly appalling, his condition. And what was very troubling is that the High Command of the Defense Force supported assisting this young man. And it was just so simple. The insurance covered it because it happened on the job, but there's a co-payment, which, because it was spinal surgery, was fairly high. And he was calling on his government to help him, because after all, he was injured in the service of his country. And from 2019 to the time that this government took office, there was no answer. But fortunately, Cat Island, Romkins, and Salvador, the member for Tall Pines, by your grace, had a line item in his budget that permitted, that permitted this government to show care and concern for one of our servicemen, one of our Marines, who was injured while on the front line for us.
They say he's mine.
Oh.
His parents live in my constituency.
Oh, Central and South, that's your constituent. Yeah. And so a Family Island boy came to do service here, and it was so disturbing, Madam Speaker. This was a young man at the very beginning of his life who was injured. And to be that callous is just amazing. And so, yes, governments are judged by whether they are better than the other party, because we don't live in an abstract or surreal world. It is a choice. And what the member for Fox Hill keeps reminding us is that if you make the wrong choice, you won't get the continued progress, you won't get the continued focus on prevention and community centers and all of the engagement. What you will get is what you saw before. And that is the reality of it. And so, Madam Speaker, I close by just saying this. The Bahamian people will have a choice in 2026, and they should pay close attention to a comparison, because the choice will be between continued progress here under a steady, sober, deliberate leader, or, but I ain't sure which one of the three can be leading them, whether it's going to be St. Barnabas, Marco City, or Kalani. But one of them, whoever it is, in the words of Prince, they don't compare to him. And so, Madam Speaker, Freetown is pleased to support these bills. The VAT Act bill that brings relief, the business license bill that actually ensures that these foreign big companies have money up front all of the time, again, addressing small people. Because, Madam Speaker, I'm pleased to say, on my personal report, that I've worked with the member for Cat Island, Rum Key, and San Salvador for my entire career, which is now 35 years this year. And I've found him to be just what he is, a man who is clear in his leadership, direct in his directions to his juniors, be they lawyers or colleagues, and somebody who analyzes properly. And so the Bahamian people should be aware and pay very close attention when they compare what we have done in 5 years. Well, they can compare what we did in 20 months to what they did in 4.5 years. But a lot has been done already, Madam Speaker, and there is a lot more to come. Freetown supports these bills and resolutions.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just have a question for Freetown, but we want Freetown to know, unlike the time when we were at a ceremony for the Royal Bahamas Defense Force and he called the Deputy Prime Minister, Prime Minister, Prime Minister. On this side, we know who the leader of our party and our organization is, and is the member for Marco City who will take us into the next general election. But on a more substantive note, I had asked the member during my contribution about the justification for moving the clear, hold, and build. It was in Angliston, and notwithstanding the fact that obviously Carmichael and other areas needs intervention as well. So this isn't a knock on those constituencies. But what data do you have that would dictate clear, hold, and build to move from Angliston, not go to St. Barnabas, not go to Centerville, not go to Bain and Grantstown, to completely leave the inner city at this point? So what data do we have that would justify going into other areas and not some of the adjacent constituencies from Angliston?
Madam Speaker, let me, because, I know St. Barnabas can't campaign openly, because I know Marco City is said to be a brutal fella. But that's the ragged island in it, Madam Speaker. Not the Cat Island. But the occasion that he speaks to, Madam Speaker, and he has opened the door for me, right? This Prime Minister is sufficiently secure that when he is not here, there is always a Prime Minister in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. There is always a Minister of National Security in this country. The fact, Madam Speaker, that Kalani rightly didn't trust any of them. He didn't trust any of them. That's just very clear what that is. But, Madam Speaker, how do I put this in a way that doesn't seem... What I would say, Madam Speaker, is this. The policing aspects of clear hold and bill is driven by intelligence. And I would say no more than that, Madam Speaker. Because the reality is, if St. Barnabas is not aware of it, the person who directs these organizations are not dummies. And so we find, for instance, Madam Speaker, that we don't even disclose all of the technology the police have because criminals have sufficient sense to be reactive. And when I speak to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, Defense Force, and our partners, I describe it as you have to build a better mousetrap. A mouse will come, he'll figure out the trap you have, and then you have to change it. I would say, Madam Speaker, simply that the intelligence that we were informed with determined that Nassau Village and Carmichael was the place to go. And I would say no more than that.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Asmini. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. You know, jostling for position. You know, there's a book that I commend to all who are interested in themselves, particular. It's called Ego, the Enemy. Google it, you'll see it's a well-written book. I would recommend that to all of you. And insofar as who is Prime Minister and who is this or that, you know, I hold a position. I'm privileged to have that position at this time. My record will speak for itself, and we can do it over. The leader and I, Marcos and I heard a sermon yesterday that spoke about doing over, do it again. Of course, he wanted to make the distinction that didn't mean repeat, just meant doing over. And he's the one who raised it. But, you know, we over here, we know who the leader is. And for me as the leader, you know, I'm comfortable in my skin. I don't look over my shoulder, because at the end of the day, you know, it is the will of someone who's higher than all of us that will determine who I am. So I am happy to welcome the man from Abaco, Guy Mills, in the house. Good to see you, Guy. One of the prolific voices of Abaco, who always speaks truth to power. Even me. Well, yeah, especially me, because the power lies here now, right? So this is who we speak to. Right, Kai? So, Madam Speaker, let us begin as we should always begin. And I alluded to the fact that the leader and I spent some time in the House of the Lord yesterday, quite a time. So let us begin by giving thanks to Almighty, the Almighty God. It is He who has carried this nation through the most difficult times and who continues to guide us towards a future filled with promise. It is always His will that will be done. And I would say it would be a profound error indeed, a complete misunderstanding of history, to believe that the progress we have made is a matter of chance or coincidence. No, Madam Speaker, the progress we have made is as a result of hard work, and it has been hard won. It has been built through the efforts of the Bahamian people. And I emphasize that, Madam Speaker. It has been built through the efforts of the Bahamian people, through their grit, their determination, their refusal to give in to despair, even in the face of extraordinary challenges. Let there be no mistake. Had it not been for them, the Bahamian people, and had it not been for the wisdom and protection of God, the success we now speak of would not have been achieved. For all the political noise, for all the grandstanding that sometimes passes for debate in this House, the reality is that this government has worked day in, day out.
Yes. That's it.
Not for applause, not for headlines, but for the people, the Bahamian people,
Real talk, real talk.
who entrust us with the responsibility of leadership. And we will continue to do so. Because government, Madam Speaker, is not about sitting back and admiring the achievements of the past. It is about facing the challenges of the future. It is about recognizing that for all we have done, there's still more to do. That we recognize. There are those who will tell you that we have achieved nothing, that our progress is illusion. But the facts will speak for themselves. Madam Speaker, when you see an economy that is growing, when you see jobs returning, when you see record investment flowing into this country, you do not need to be told that what success looks like. It is happening. It is real. And it is only possible because of the faith, the perseverance, and the sheer resilience of the Bahamian people. And so, as we wrap up this debate, let us do so with a clear sense of purpose, not just to account for what has been done, but to make clear what must be done next. Because the future of this nation is not something that will be decided by commentators or critics. It will be decided by the choices we make here in this Parliament. What is clear, undeniably clear, is that good news for the Bahamas is bad news for the opposition. They have made a political calculation, and it is a simple one. If this country prospers, they suffer. If Bahamian families succeed, they struggle. Their entire strategy is built not on offering solutions, not on proposing better policies, but on hoping desperately that things go wrong. Madam Speaker, when employment falls, when businesses grow, when the economy strengthens, they do not welcome it. They do not embrace it. They do not even acknowledge it. They do not, as any responsible opposition might, challenge us to go further. Instead, they lament and complain. They see every investment as a threat to their political fortunes, every economic milestone as a setback to their ambition. What a sad and cynical approach. A sad, sad story, that is. Yes. Because, Madam Speaker, leadership is not about waiting in the wings, hoping for the worst. It is not about telling the Bahamian people day after day that their success is an illusion. It is about having the honesty to admit when progress has been made, the courage to build on it, and the integrity to put country before party. But they cannot do that because they have tied themselves to a narrative of failure. And when the facts do not fit their story, they ignore them. When the numbers grow, when the numbers show growth, they dismiss them. When international agencies, investors, and economists point to the Bahamas as a country on the rise, they cover their ears. Madam Speaker, they told us the economy will not recover. It has. They told us we could not attract investments. We have. They told us unemployment would not fall. It has. They told us we would not get spending under control. We did. They told us that government revenues would collapse. They have strengthened. And yet, despite all this,
If the member for Kent Island, if the day that he's referring to as the Free National Movement, then he is telling an untruth in the Parliament. He's misleading the Parliament. Because certainly he didn't hear that from any member on this side. And so I want to make that clear to the public that is not the case. I have written letters to the Prime Minister. We have made recommendations to this government. We have sent in amendments to numerous pieces of legislation which we voted for. So clearly, Madam Speaker, we've supported things that we thought in some cases made sense but did not go far enough or could have in fact been improved. So the narrative that the speechwriters have provided to the member for Kent Island will fall flat on the ears of Bahamians, because certainly he is misrepresenting our representation of the Bahamian people in the House of Assembly, Madam Speaker.
thank you very much, Madam
Thank you, Honourable Member.
Madam Speaker, I'm thankful for the intervention. And since you accusing speechwriters of what I'm saying, let me go off strip a minute. Do you accept that the economy has recovered?
Yes. Okay.
Do you? Yeah, the economy has. Do you accept? Do you accept? Do you accept?
It's a yes or no question. It's a yes
Do you accept? Yeah, go ahead.
Madam Speaker, that any economy that has been closed during COVID, once those economies reopen, there is a naturally expected recovery in the industry. In fact, Madam Speaker, you want to listen? Do you want to listen, or you all want to listen? So, Madam Speaker, when the economy reopened, it reopened, Madam Speaker, with a 14, then 10% economic growth rate. And then it returned to pre-pandemic numbers. So to answer the Prime Minister, yes, once an economy reopens, you expect an increase. But we have now gone back, Madam Speaker, according to the Prime Minister's number, to 1.7 expected growth rate. So we're going to hover over this year and next year between 1.7, according to his numbers, and possibly 1.1, Madam Speaker. No problem. If that satisfies you, despite what our people are feeling, carry on.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
You know, somebody just whispered in my ear. I don't know if there's anyone here where that voice came from, but they say, "Brave, you're fishing." I say, "Yes, I am." I say, "Guess what? But you know something? He don't catch a fish unless he opens his mouth." So the economy has recovered. He accepts. Now, would you accept? Let's move on to the next thing. Would you accept that we have attracted investment? Would you accept that? Right? Would you accept that unemployment has fallen to the lowest level in 20 years? Would you accept that? Right? Would you accept on the record that spending is under control? Would you accept that our revenue has not collapsed? So, do you accept those things?
Yes.
And so,
No.
I'm moving on, Madam Speaker. I move on, Madam Speaker. I move on. I move on, right? I give, see, look, man. Listen, I'm not going to eat. See, because you're already on the line. I don't want the hook to go any deeper. Don't allow the hook to get any deeper. Right? Now, and so, Madam Speaker, right? The question for the Bahamian people. The question for the Bahamian people really is this. Do we believe the reality we can see, the progress we can feel, and the opportunities that are growing every day? Madam Speaker, or do we accept the fiction that the opposition is so desperately wanting us to believe? Questions, they're questions. But I tell you one thing, try to leave downtown and get to Cable Beach. See how long that will take you today. At any hour of the day. Come from here and go into Lizzie or go into St. Barnabas. See how long it takes. Right? 2 decades. Just check it. Right? See, they'll never accept anything.
How good the economy doing?
They'll never accept anything. But see, Bahamian people feel that. They're now complaining about the traffic on the road. We have to address that zone too. But traffic on the road because there are activities. Things are happening. Right? Things are happening. So this government.
Speaker, the Prime Minister is shadow boxing. He's setting up false arguments and then arguing with the false argument he created. The reason you have new roads, the reason you had a massive road project by Hubert Alexander Ingram was because of the precise thing that he said. We had a problem moving in New Providence, and if we want to use the arguments that he used, yes, there were lots of activities. There were activities then as there are now. So it is not a reflection of some economic boom that he's talking about that has resulted in traffic being congested, Madam Speaker. This has occurred before he came to office, before the last Prime Minister came to office, before the last Prime Minister. So again, it's a false argument, and it does not prove the case of any economic bonanza for this Prime Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member.
When I give advice sometimes, you might think it's gratuitous, you might think it might be scoring something. I don't score points. The point, see, I said, the more you speak, the deeper the hook will get. Your explanation just now, see, you just got up and said you never said, I said, right, when I was saying these things that the economy would not, they told us the economy would not recover. They told us that we could not attract them. When I said that, when I said those things, you said it ain't true. And now I am demonstrating by illustration, right, a pointer that supports our contention. And you get up and say, it ain't true. That ain't nothing to do with growing in the economy. You're right back to what I was saying, Anyway, Madam Speaker, you got to decide whether we're growing or we ain't growing, and just take your position.
Say that. How about the 25th April? 25th April?
Be consistent with your views. That's all I say. Either you don't agree that the company is growing, you agree you don't want to embrace what international and other investors are saying about the country. That's your right. But hold on to what you believe instead of waffling, going from this place to the next, right?
The flip-flop? That's not right.
Madam Speaker.
That's not right.
Did you say waffling?
This government.
NIB.
We don't ask things we don't ask for blind faith. We're not asking anyone to have blind faith. We only ask that the facts be recognized and acknowledged. That numbers, for example, be acknowledged. and let the progress be seen for what it is. Proof that when a government puts the people first, when it makes smart, strategic choices, the Bahamas succeeds, and succeed we will continue to do. This administration, Madam Speaker, we're not looking for applause. We're not here to pat ourselves on the back, nor are we content to rest on our achievements or our laurels. We are here to reaffirm, I repeat this, Madam Speaker, we are here to reaffirm our confidence, our absolute unshakable confidence in the Bahamian economy and the people who drive it forward. Madam Speaker, remember when they said we wouldn't be able to handle the pandemic? They said that. In fact, I recall the competent authority talking about, I am the doctor. I remember very clearly that we didn't have the capacity, the vision, or the leadership to steer this country through one of the greatest crises of our time. You remember they said all that. And yet we did. And yet, here we stand with economic growth stronger than pre-pandemic levels. It is stronger than pre-pandemic levels. Just look at the numbers. With new investment pouring in, with thousands more Bahamians at work than they were when they were last in office. Let us remind the leader of the opposition. Remind him when he was on the other side of this chamber, sitting in government, defending the very policies that strangle opportunity, that push Bahamians into hardship, that fail to deliver on every promise they made. Because, Madam Speaker, what we see today is a government that inherited an economy in crisis and we turned it around. We have seen what failure looks like. We lived through it. It was the reckless policies of the opposition, their lack of foresight, their inability to lead that left this country weaker and more vulnerable when the pandemic hit. And yet, Madam Speaker, they now sit in opposition, pretending they had all the answers. They had all the answers. Answers they never once implemented. Ideas they never once had the courage to act upon. Here are the realities. Here are the realities. The numbers, the facts, the undeniable truth that no amount of political spin can erase. The comparison is clear. Even before Hurricane Dorian, even before the pandemic, the opposition's plans were already failing. I pointed out to them on many occasions before the pandemic hit. Just look at my contributions to the budget debates and other contributions with respect to financial and fiscal issues before the debate. The warning was then. Madam Speaker, let us not allow them to rewrite history. Before a single wave crashed on our shores, before the world had even heard the word COVID, the economic policies had already left the Bahamas struggling. Debt was rising, growth was slowing, jobs were disappearing. And for all their talk of discipline and prudence, they had no vision, no strategy, no plan beyond raising taxes on the backs of Bahamian families. And so, when the storms came, both literal and economic, they were exposed. Madam Speaker, the truth is that the opposition had already set this country on a path to economic hardship long before disaster struck. They did not fail because of Hurricane Dorian. They did not fail because of COVID-19. They failed because their approach to governing was fundamentally flawed. They entered office promising transformation, but left behind stagnation instead. They promised opportunity, but delivered austerity. And yet today, they would stand here pretending that the past did not happen, pretending that the struggles Bahamians faced under their watch were the result of misfortune rather than mismanagement. And they're here now, Madam Speaker. They're here really complaining, they're complaining that perhaps we're not cleaning up their mess fast enough. But the Bahamian people remember. They remember the failed policies. They remember the broken promises. They remember an administration that lacked the courage to lead and the competence to govern. What we have done, what this administration has done, is take the mess they left behind and rebuild. We have not just stabilized the economy, we have strengthened it. We have not just brought back jobs, we have created new ones. We have not just restored investors' confidence, we have expanded it to levels never seen before. Madam Speaker, in every meaningful measure, whether it be economic growth, job creation, or fiscal responsibility, this government has done what they could not. And that, Madam Speaker, is reality. No amount of denial can change it. No amount of political posturing can undo it. The facts stand. The numbers tell the story. And the Bahamian people know the difference between those who talk and those who deliver. You know, the opposition really doesn't like when we remind them of their failures, you know. They squirm. They deflect. They pretend that history started the day they left office. But the truth, Madam Speaker, is that failures are not a matter of opinion. They are a matter of record. And yet, somehow, they believe that if given another opportunity, things would be different, that they have changed, that the same people with the same ideas and the same reckless approach to governance would suddenly produce different results.
That's the key.
But, Madam Speaker, the truth is written in the old adage, a leopard does not change its spots. So, Madam Speaker, let them say what they wish. Let them spin their narratives. Let them hope that Bahamians have short memories. But we will remind the people of this country every single day of the choice before them between a government that delivers and an opposition that destroys, between progress and regression, between rare leadership and reckless incompetence. The past is not something to run from, Madam Speaker. It is something to learn from. And the lesson is clear. The opposition has nothing new to offer. They're simply waiting for another chance to make the same mistake all over again. But this administration is here to ensure that the Bahamas never goes back to those days. We are moving forward, and we will not be stopped. Amen. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes
Yes, Madam
Honourable
Speaker,
Member for Marcus.
the member for Cat Island had indicated prior to the wrap-up that he intended to answer the question relative to whether or not he accepted that he had busted the budget. And again, to address the deficit question. The second thing is the member for Grand Bahama had promised to lay documents, Madam Speaker, which the House agreed to enforce relative to the strategic plan as well as the feasibility study for the Afro-Caribbean marketplace. And we've asked every day since then, but we have not gotten those documents. And so those are the two things we just wanted to raise, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Caroline Rumkey San Salvador.
So, Madam Speaker, as I said, I move for the second reading and committal. No, not today.
Not today?
Not today.
Next week, we have the question and
not
answer.
today.
Would you be, well,
No.
I know you're answering next week
No.
questions.
Not
Do
today.
you intend to do that next week as well? At the same time?
One of the things, Madam Speaker,
Honorable member, there's a motion on the floor, and we're going to get back to that.
So, Madam Speaker, as I said, I move for the second reading committal of the value-added tax amendment bill 2025. I maintain a second.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Value Added Tax Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Value-Added Tax Act.
For the second readings?
Madam Speaker, I move for second reading and committal of a bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act 2025.
Thank you, honorable members. Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read for a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act.
For the second readings?
Madam Speaker, I move for the second reading and committal of a bill to amend, for an act to amend the Business License Act 2025.
Seconded. Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Business License Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Business License Act.
For the second readings?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I move for the second reading and committal of a bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act 2025.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Business Technical and Vocational Institute. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute.
Thank you. For the second readings?
Madam Speaker, I move for the second reading and committal of a bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a second time and committed. A bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Order that the bill be read for a second time and committed.
A bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act.
Thank you. Further second readings?
The second reading, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, I now move that the House dissolve itself into Committee of the Whole with the Deputy Speaker and the Chair.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the House do now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole with the Deputy Speaker in the Chair. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The House will now resolve itself into the Committee of the Whole with the Deputy Speaker in the Chair.
Committee of the Whole, the Chair recognizes the Honourable Member for Freetown.
The Value Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025. Mr. Chairman, I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The long title of the bill is agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that Section 1, the short title and commencement of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The short title of the bill is agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that clauses 2 to 7 of the bill be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that Section
2 to 7.
Section 2 through 7 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Sections 2 through 7 is agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that Clause 8, which inserts the new schedule, be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 8 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The chair recognizes the honorable member for St. Anne's.
I'd like to propose amendment to items in the fourth schedule. The fourth schedule has been represented as coming from the Customs Duty Act. I've mentioned in my contribution that certain things like shark fin, shark meat, manatees, even the meat of asses, whales, and walruses, Mr. Deputy Speaker, dogfish and other sharks weren't fitting. But as it's continues to be contended that this is from the customs schedule, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and all of these things are still available for importation. I checked the customs schedule, and based on my review of the customs schedule, dogfish and other sharks, as well as the meat of asses and horse meat, is still on the list. Heinies is still on the list, but certain items, Mr. Deputy Speaker, such as manatees, whales, shark fins, and abalone, I've not found those on the customs list. So if we are content to import and reduce VAT on the meat of horses, asses, mules, heinies, whether fresh, chilled, or frozen, I would ask, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I'm prepared to identify the other areas where we should remove the itemized mention of walrus, whales, and shark fin, Mr. Deputy Speaker, as well as abalone.
Is there a seconder?
Mr. Deputy Speaker.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill be amended as read. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is defeated. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
I take it, Mr. Chairman, that you're taking the Clause 8 is agreed as is. I then move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Next, the Business License Amendment Bill 2025, Mr. Chairman, and I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The long title of the bill is agreed.
I now move, Mr. Chairman, that Clause 1, the short title and commencement of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The short title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that Clause 2 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 2 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Clauses 2 of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Next, the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Amendment Bill 2025. I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The long title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the short clause 1, the short title and commencement of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The short title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that clause 2 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 2 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Clauses 2 of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Next, the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2025. I move that the long title of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The long title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the short title of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The short title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that clause 2 of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 2 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Clauses 2 of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Next, the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Amendment Bill 2025. You have to move the act be added after that. I now move for that the long title of the bill be agreed.
It has been moved and seconded that the long title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Tall Pine.
Thank you so much, Mr. Deputy. We do move that the title of the bill that is presently a bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute to be changed as a bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act. Yeah.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill be amended as read. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The bill is amended as read.
I now move that the short title of the bill be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the short title of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The short title of the bill is agreed.
I now move that clause 2 of the bill be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that clauses 2 of the bill be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Clauses 2 of the bill is agreed.
I now move that the bill in its entirety be agreed.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that the bill in its entirety be agreed. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The bill in its entirety is agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I now move that the House to resume with the Speaker in the chair.
It has been moved and seconded that the Speaker do now take the chair. As many as are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The Speaker will now take the chair.
Honorable members, the Deputy Chairman and Committee of the Whole has reported that the committee has examined the bill, having made one amendment thereto. Third reading and passing.
Madam Speaker, I move for the third reading and passing of the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2025.
Is there a seconder? Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and passed. A bill for an act to amend the Value Added Tax Act. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the bill be read for a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Value-Added Tax Act.
Thank you for the third readings.
I move for the third reading and passing of the Business License Amendment Bill 2025.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and passed. A bill for an act to amend the Business License Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the bill be read for a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Business License Act.
Thank you. Further third readings?
I move for the third reading and passing of the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Amendment Bill 2025.
Thank you, honorable member. Is there a seconder? Thank you, honorable member. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read for a third time and passed. A bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Tax Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the bill be read for a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Domestic Minimum Top-Up Act.
Thank you for the third readings.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I move for the third reading and passing of the Road Traffic Amendment Bill 2025.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following bill be read for a third time and passed. A bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the bill be read for a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Road Traffic Act.
For the third readings?
Finally, Madam Speaker, I move for the third reading and passing of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Amendment Bill 2025.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that the following bill be read a third time and pass. A bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the bill be read a third time and passed.
A bill for an act to amend the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act.
Ordered that this bill do now pass and the title thereof declared to be the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Amendment Act 2025. For the third reading and passing of bills.
No further third reading and passing.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Ordered that the clerk do take the bills passed by this House today to the Honorable Senate for their concurrence. We will now revert back to the order of business. Consideration of Senate amendments. Resolutions. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador.
Madam Speaker, as foreshadowed last week, I move for the passing of a resolution for the borrowing of $300 million. And I would read the relevant portions for completeness. Whereas the annual estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2024-2025 were laid before the House of Assembly pursuant to Article 129(1) of the Constitution. And whereas by Section 16(2) of the Public Debt Management Act 2021, the minister is authorized to borrow for the purposes set out in Section 18 thereof, either within or outside the Bahamas, from any person, organization, foreign government, a national agency, or foreign organization by entering into government loan agreements or line of credit arrangements, issuing securities, or creating other debt instruments in local or foreign currency. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow the sum of $300 million in such currency as the Minister may determine. 2, authorizes the Minister to borrow by way of government loan agreements or line of credit arrangements, issuing securities, and creating other debt instruments in local or foreign currency, subject to the provision that the total sum borrowed under paragraph A to C does not exceed the sum of $300 million. Approves the deposit of the proceeds from the borrowing to the National Investment Fund. If I could have a second.
Second. Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be passed. Whereas the annual estimate of revenue expenditure for 2024-2025 were laid before the House of Assembly pursuant to Article 129(1). Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House authorizes the Minister of Finance to borrow the sum of $300 million in such currency as the Minister may determine. Authorizes the Minister to borrow by way of A, government loan agreements or line of credit agreements, issuing securities, and creating other debt instruments in local or foreign currency, subject to the provision that the total sum borrowed under paragraph A through C does not exceed the sum of $300 million. approves the deposit of the proceeds from the borrowing to the National Investment Fund. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Further resolutions?
Speaker, further resolutions for adoption. Whereas the Public Hospitals Authority, this is to borrow $75 million for the Public Hospital Authority. This resolution is to authorize such a borrowing, Madam Speaker. Whereas the Public Hospitals Authority is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the Public Hospitals Authority Act, which is responsible for the management of the hospitals known as the Princess Margaret Hospital, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and the Sandlands Rehabilitation Center. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the Public Hospitals Authority under the loan agreement between the Public Hospitals Authority and a consortium of banks in the sum of $75 million. If I could have a second.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be passed. Whereas the Public Hospital Authority is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the Public Hospitals Authority Act, Chapter 234, which is responsible for the management of the hospitals known as the Princess Margaret Hospital, the Rand Memorial Hospital, and the Sandlands Rehabilitation Center. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the Public Hospitals Authority under the loan agreement between the Public Hospitals Authority and the consortium of banks in the sum of $75 million. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. Ordered that the resolution do now pass. Further resolutions?
Yes. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, before I put the next resolution, just for completeness, the resolution passed for the borrowing of $75 million for the Public Hospitals Authority was for the purpose of construction of the Grand Bahama Hospital and some repairs to the Princess Margaret Hospital. And the consortium of bank is led by CIBC Caribbean. And that's for completeness of record.
Thank you, honorable member.
Thank you. Madam Speaker, whereas this third resolution relates to the University of the Bahamas, whereas the University of the Bahamas is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the University of Bahamas Act, and whereas the University of the Bahamas is desirous of borrowing $25 million from the Bank of the Bahamas for the purpose of supporting the preparation for accreditation of the University of the Bahamas. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the University of the Bahamas under the loan agreement between the University of the Bahamas and the Bank of the Bahamas in the sum of $25 million.
Seconded.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be passed. Whereas the University of the Bahamas is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the University of the Bahamas Act, Chapter 48. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the University of the Bahamas under the loan agreement between the University of the Bahamas and the Bank of the Bahamas in the sum of $25 million. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The resolution do now pass. Further resolutions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Speaker, I omitted to, Madam Speaker, recognize at the passing of that resolution the presence of the chairman of the University of Bahamas who sits in the gallery. The Honorable Allison Maynard Gibson.
Yes.
Casey.
Casey. Welcome, madam.
Speaker, this resolution that is now moved is in relation to the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute. Whereas the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act, and whereas the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute is desirous of borrowing $10 million from the Bank of the Bahamas for the purpose of supporting the preparation for accreditation of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute, now therefore be it resolved that this House approves of the government of the Government of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute under the loan agreement between the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute and the Bank of the Bahamas in the sum of $10 million.
Thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be passed. Whereas the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute is a body corporate established under Section 3 of the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute Act. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas guaranteeing the repayment of all monies borrowed by the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute under the loan agreement between the Bahamas Technical and Vocational Institute and the Bank of the Bahamas in the sum of $10 million. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The resolution do now pass. For the resolution?
Madam Speaker, this resolution relates to borrowings by the Water and Sewage Corporation. Whereas the government of the Bahamas, in collaboration with the Water and Sewage Corporation, wish to acquire, upgrade, and expand Family Island water production operations. And whereas the government is desirous of incorporating a special purpose vehicle to be owned by the government or the Water and Sewage Corporation to secure a loan in the amount of $50 million from Scotiabank for the purpose of acquiring, upgrading, and expanding Family Island water production operations as aforesaid. And whereas a precondition of the loan is that the government shall repay all monies that may be outstanding under the loan in the principal amount of $50 million or any part thereof which the SPEV as borrower may fail to repay. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government guaranteeing the repayment of all monies outstanding under the loan agreement between the SPV and Scotiabank in the sum of $50 million.
Seconded. And thank you, honorable members. It has been moved and seconded that the following resolution be passed. Whereas the government of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, in collaboration with the Water and Sewage Corporation, wish to acquire, upgrade, and expand Family Island water production operations. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House approves of the government guaranteeing the repayment of all monies outstanding under the loan agreement between the SPV and Scotiabank in the sum of $50 million. As many are in favor will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. The resolution is now passed. Further resolutions?
No further resolutions.
Thank you, honorable member. We will now revert back to the order of business. Member statement. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Garden Hills.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in this honorable house to thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in this honorable house to wish the first lady in my life happy birthday, 80th birthday. And that's my wife who was called me, say, 80, 80. My mother. That's the first woman in my life, eh?
That's right, his first wife.
You said your wife.
That's
My
right.
wife, my mother. My mother.
First wife. I was your first wife, right?
Yeah, well, that's the first woman I loved.
That's right.
I wanted to wish my mother 80th birthday today, and also to wish my father's 86th birthday coming this Saturday.
Wow.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for East Grand Bahama.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I wanted to first thank the good people from Sweetings Key who entertained us last week, Saturday, when we had a grill and chill in Sweetings Key. Also, I wanted to congratulate Pedersen Ballou, who is the pastor in the Baptist church there in Sweetings Key. He had an anniversary service, I think, on Sunday. And I want to say congratulations to him and to all of those persons who he gave awards to. Also, Madam Speaker, in my walkabouts there, the residents continue to raise issues, first of all, about and I know this sounds almost like a broken record, but they continue to raise issues about the nurse in having a full-time nurse there in Sweetings Key. One of the times that they had a group of folks there in Sweetings Key, and one of the pastors had an accident with one of the mopeds. And at that time, there was no nurse who was there. Thankfully, it was not that serious, but they had to immediately put him on a boat and take him back to the mainland in Marco City. I mean, sorry, in McLeanstown. Madam Speaker, the member for Tall Pines may also be aware that the nurse in McLeanstown, who has been the nurse there for many, many years, she has been, I think, a tremendous asset to the folks there in McLeanstown. She recently retired, and there is a need, now that she has retired, there is a need to have a replacement nurse stationed there in McLeanstown. Again, McLeanstown, at that dock, they service those folks coming in from Sweetings Key. So if there's no nurse there in McLeanstown, then they really are going to have to travel back down to Freeport to see a nurse. There are also complaints about pharmacists. There was a pharmacist that used to visit there. I'm told now that the pharmacist has not been there since sometime last year. And so we need answers in terms of what's happening with the pharmacist as well as the dentist. There is complaints again that the dentist has not been there for some time. So, Madam Speaker, we would like the member for Tall Pines to look into those matters again. I do want to say for the member for Central and South Eleuthera, I did raise the issue of the government building in McLeanstown. I'm told that Ministry of Works folks did go to visit the site, and so we are hopeful that some repair work will at least begin to be done in the near future. Also, Madam Speaker, this issue may not have been raised, but it is an issue of concern for folks in East Grand Bahama, but also I believe in Grand Bahama as a whole, and that is the sale of, or possible sale. I know we've been hearing sort of media reports about the sale of, is it CK Holdings? The sale of CK Holdings, which involve the Hutchison Port in Freeport. It may involve the harbor company as well as the container port, and to an American company. We would like some indication as to whether this does involve the properties in Grand Bahama. How does it involve the properties in Grand Bahama? And whether it involves not just the container port and the harbor company, but does it involve GB DevCo's property as well? It is a significant investment in Grand Bahama, and so the change of ownership in that significant investment either way will have a significant impact in Grand Bahama. So we would like to understand what is the situation. Has the government been notified of any change in ownership or any potential change in ownership, and whether the government can indicate what potential impacts that may have.
Thank you. The chair recognizes the honourable member.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to say a few words to the residents of Tall Pines, and to say that thank you to the member for Mount Moriah. The residents can see that there's a sign indicating that the park is under renovation, and that renovation will begin very shortly. During the member for Garden Hills, on his feet in his contribution, he made it very clear that there is funding vested in his line item for the repair and expansion of the pool. And we are working very closely with the member for Mount Moriah as it relates to the children's park. And so the repairs for that park will begin because money is finally in place. To answer the member for East Grand Bahama as it relates to some of the challenges in Sweetens Key as well as McLeanstown, I must say that there is a shortage of nurses in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, and we just had 58 new graduates from UB who are now being trained, and some of them are domiciled in Grand Bahama and have expressed interest to return home. So very shortly, I believe that we will have the legroom necessary to ensure that Sweetens Key is covered, and by extension, McLeanstown. But one of the greatest challenges we have in Sweetens Key, it has to do with accommodation, and it was a similar problem we had in High Rock that was resolved. And so we're working diligently on it. The people of East Grand Bahama deserve and should have the necessary medical support system in place in the event of any incident or even to treat chronic non-communicable diseases. And so that is definitely on our agenda as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The chair recognizes the honourable member for Golden Gates.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to remind the constituents of Golden Gates that this Saturday coming, March 15th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., many of them, as we have our constituency meetings, have been asking about getting legal advice on a number of matters: real estate matters, probate matters, criminal cases, some have corporate matters. So we are offering a free legal aid clinic this Saturday from 10 a.m. until 1 p.m. or as long as we need to serve the constituents. We also will be providing our usual expungement application services at that time. And I want to invite all members of Golden Gates who have been seeking these services to come out on Saturday at the Sybil Strawn Primary School. That's where we will be located. I want to also note for residents of Grand Bahama, between March 26th and 28th, the Bahamas Department of Labor and Public Service will be hosting a job fair in collaboration with Grupo Anderson's. And we have over 600 positions available. So I encourage so many persons from Grand Bahama who've been reaching out and asking about employment, who've been visiting our office at the Wynn building downtown in Grand Bahama, to come out to this job fair. If you need assistance with having your resume prepared in advance of this job fair, please visit the Department of Labor or the Ministry of Labor and Public Service, and we will be happy to assist you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Nassau Village.
Thank you, Speaker. I would like to thank the Prime Minister and the member for Kent Island, Rumpke, and San Salvador for the Clear Hold Bill initiative that is really doing wonders in the constituency of Nassau Village. Madam Speaker, I have finally come to the realization of how many derelict vehicles are truly in the constituency of Nassau Village. Just this Sunday, there was a blatant disregard for the authorities, and that is the police authorities as well, as persons started and commenced on their stripping down of cars in the middle of the road in the Red Land Acres constituency, directly in the middle of the road, with about 9 cars being dumped the night before. And as we shift from clear to hold, I would like to thank the Commissioner of Police for sending dispatch out there to Red Land Acres, but also to reinforce the fact that we have a serious issue with derelict vehicles on the island. And I do believe that this Clear Hold initiative should take root, but the removal of derelict vehicles should be ongoing and nonstop, because there's a blatant disregard as it pertains to solicitation and reselling of parts and stolen vehicles. On the next matter, I would like to inform all residents of the constituency of Nassau Village that we will now have representation from the constituency office also at the community center in the heart of Nassau Village. This is a directed approach to ensure that all of the polling divisions and all of the community of Nassau Village is attended to, just as we've had the constituency office opened up on Soldier Road. So we will have 2 locations operating from Tuesday and Thursdays at their pleasure. Thank you so much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Barnabas.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, just wish to remind the constituents of St. Barnabas of our senior citizens program and any assistance that they need with any of their weekly chores, if you will, particularly those where they have to go to the clinic. Any of those matters, they can let us know as we assist with that. While I'm on my feet too, Madam Speaker, would like to let the residents of Black Village know that currently there's some milling going on in the constituency as the Ministry of Works prepares for paving, and so they should just proceed with caution. But I do want to thank the Honorable Member for Central and South Eleuthera, the Minister of Works, for his assistance. The residents of Black Village in particular are very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for Seabreeze.
Good morning, colleagues. I'd like to take this opportunity just to remind not only the residents of Seabreeze, but communities near and far of our call to prayer this week, Friday, at the Charles Carter Park, starting at 6:30. It's going to be an amazing event of prayer and praise. We have several performances by Pastor Simeon Ouden, Shabak, Davian Chase, Carity Newton, Edison Sumner, and the VOPs, Bishop Lawrence Roll as well. I also want to give a special thank you to the Royal Bahamas Police Force, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force, who will be there on site just to support this event, and also to all of the pastors and leaders in our community. All of the pastors and all of the churches will be taking part in this event. So I also invite my colleagues as well. If you're not doing anything Friday evening at 6:30, please come to the Charles Carter Park, where our community will gather for an evening of prayer and praise. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The chair recognizes the Honorable Member for St. Anne's.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I'd like to congratulate the Queens College Comets. Yes. They won the BAISS Track and Field Championships. Yes. Beat the Big Red Machine. This is the 4th time, Madam Speaker, that QC Comets have won the championship.
Say it again, how much? 32 times. 32 times.
Y'all be gracious in defeat, man.
We are gracious.
And I think it's absolutely necessary that QC get its recognition. The school is, in my opinion, the top private school in the Bahamas right now, both academically and obviously athletically in 2020-25. Yes, Madam Speaker. And top BGCSE results, as Madam Speaker pointed out. Thank you. Also, we give recognition to SAC. SAC still dominates in athletics in the Bahamas. So QC received 1,344 points. SAC, Big Red Machine, received 1,299.5 points. And Temple Christian, which came along out of nowhere, a small school, but obviously making headway, placed third with 541 points. And then in fourth and fifth place, we had St. John's College as well as St. Anne's. And St. Anne's, of course, is in the greatest district in the Bahamas by far. So congratulations to QC Comets and all of the schools that participated in the BAISS Championship. We will, of course, be able to hold the title until next year this time, and I hope that all the athletes that succeeded this year or maybe placed second or third continue to train and continue to dedicate themselves to their personal excellence, because the nation is proud of each and every one of them. Madam Speaker, I'd also like to extend condolences. I was fortunate enough to attend the funerals for Mr. Jack Marie, his son Jody Marie and daughter Kelly Beth Marie. They lost their father on February 14th. Jack Marie's name may not be that well known to many persons, but I think every single family, household represented in this house, as well as in New Providence, has at one time or another attended the Sandy's retail store and obtained maybe an item of uniform, maybe some Dickies clothing for the vocational employment. And Jack Marie was the principal, the owner of Sandy's. So I'd like to extend my condolences to his family. And also this Saturday I attended the funeral for the late Yellowbird boat captain Ricardo Eldon, Rick Eldon, more well known by Box Eldon. I'd like to extend condolences to his three daughters, Kristen, Karen, and Laura. And then finally, by way of an update, we had the unfortunate incident, the tragic incident Saturday before last in St. Anne's, where in the early morning hours, a young woman by the name of Cheyenne Lewis lost her life at the end of Prince Charles Drive, the eastern end of Prince Charles Drive, and the intersection of Eastern Road. We were able to, the constituency was able to speak to the principals at Bahamas Striping, and yesterday, we were at that intersection, and a glass bead lining work has been done so that there's now a big stop bar at that intersection between Prince Charles Drive and Eastern Road. The stop sign has been glass bead marked on the road, and we've also commenced a pedestrian awareness project for the St. Anne's constituency, which I'll say would be in honor of Cheyenne. And we put down a pedestrian walkway from the vacant lot where a lot of vehicles park across to the waterfront there. So her memory will live on, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to extend again thanks to the principals of Bahamas Striping, Dominic Stirrup and Atario Mitchell, two other excellent examples of St. Anne's constituents. Madam Speaker, I'd just like to conclude by letting the residents of polling division number 10, Sunset Ridge and Sapphire Ridge, know that their park is going to continue to receive improvements. We have the park benches. Wood is being refurbished and will be placed back on the metal benches that are there. And we're about to sign a contract. It's about $60,000, Madam Speaker. It really would be nice if public parks and beaches would participate. We're going to add some of that outdoor exercise equipment that you see in the good members Charles Carter Park and Seabreeze. We're going to put that on the grounds of the Sunset Ridge, Sapphire Park, Ridge Park. So that'll be a great improvement. A number of constituents love to walk, and now they'll have an opportunity to build their muscles with the outdoor exercise equipment. And finally, I'm hearing a lot of talk about the clear, hold, and build. I think St. Anne's is the only constituency office that has bullet holes in the side of the building, Madam Speaker. So I don't know what the statistics show, but in terms of which constituency office has bullet holes in the side of it, It's only St. Anne's. We would like the Clear, Hold, and Build program to come into the Johnson Road and Step Street communities. We just saw a massive fire with a metal site over the weekend, and we have 2 problem hotspots in the St. Anne's Fox Hill community. One is technically on Adderley Street, but it's otherwise known as Johnson Road. That leads from Bernard Road into Johnson Road and Step Street. There's a big car lot there. If you do a Google image, you'll see that there's vehicles all through the bush. Those are essentially abandoned and stacked vehicles. If that ever should light up that whole residential community along Adderley Street and the residential community of Johnson Road Estates, is going to be at risk of becoming a blaze. And then you have on Step Street, you have another car lot where they break down vehicles. Sometimes they paint, sometimes they repair, but there's got to be at least 70 vehicles in that section on Step Street. It goes from one side of the road across to the other and fills the side road. And now it's going from one side of a residential property to the other side. If Ministry of Health and Ministry of National Security could go in there and apply both environmental removal exercises and the Clear, Hold, and Build exercise, that'd be very beneficial. There was, in fact, a shooting on Step Street not too long ago where 3 people were shot, and that was in a new bush site that was starting on the south side of Step Street, which is actually technically Fox Hill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. The Chair recognizes the Honorable Member for North Abaco.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon. Madam Speaker, I would like to extend my condolences to the Roll and Sims family of Murphytown and Mount Hope on the transitioning of Timothy, better known as Ticket Roll. I also like to extend condolences to the Russell family of Crown Haven on the passing of Juanita Russell, the McIntosh family of Foxtown on the passing of Lucindo, also known as Cindy McIntosh, the Albury families in Grand Key on the passing of Whitfield, also known as Cap Albury, and the Johnson family of Grand Key on the passing of Danny Johnson. May their soul rest in peace and rise in glory. Madam Speaker, I would also like to thank Mr. Wade Cash, Ken and Justin Sawyer, and the local government members of Green Turtle Key for assisting me with the demolishing of the old post office and bathroom block on Green Turtle Key. That building not only was an eyesore, but it was a clear and present danger to the surrounding home and community at large. So I want to thank them again for assisting me in demolishing that building. I would also like to thank Mr. Penn and his team from Urban Development who joined me in Grand Key last week, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday to do small home assessment to bring some sort of repairs and relief to the community of Grand Key. During the visit, we was able to assess 40 homes, and we do intend to visit again and do the completion for the remaining. North Abaco, I wish to remind you that small progress is far better than no progress. We give this PLP administration 2 sitting members of parliament. We voted the 2 F&N out simply because we was completely tired of the misrepresentation, the disrespect. So we decided to go with my party of 30 years, the Progressive Liberal Party. While there is much to be done in Abaco, I don't stand here and say to you that there isn't anything to be done. But I am saying to you, you have a government that is listening to you, that cares. We are working on your behalf. I wish to draw to your attention, North Abaco. When the former administration had the opportunity as a government to come to your aid and demonstrate care for you, you know what happened. One of the first things this Prime Minister and our team did coming to office, we amended the Evidence Act, giving you the opportunity to access a birth certificate for your loved ones that was lost. A death certificate, sorry. The former administration They collected your dead and let them rot. That's not a joke. Those are your family members. Now they come in this place and they sing a Christian tune like they are the savior of the poor people. I don't have a problem with their message as the leader of the opposition tried to equate to this government. We hear the message, we know the cries of the people. We just have a problem with who's bringing the message. It's like you're sending Satan to preach the gospel. It won't work. I stand here to say to North Abaco, we are elected. Your 2 PLP members of parliament are elected. We have ministers and caring ministers who we continue to bring your concerns to on a daily basis. We believe, we hope, and we know that this administration is far different from the former. Listen to all of the ministers in their presentation. They are promising to fix what is broken. North Abaco, I simply wish to say this to you. There is a saying, I would rather fail at trying to help you than to succeed at hurting you. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Member. I've never seen that passion from you. But I don't know if Satan is parliamentary, so I'm going to ask them to strike that from the record. Okay? It's parliamentary? Golden Eyes it is? It is. So we can call him Satan. Okay, Kalani.
Satan, I just said.
Okay. He never said that. Okay. Okay, I will leave it. I will leave it. Kalani said to me, I can leave it. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Golden Isles.
Madam Speaker, thank you. I just want to speak, just to respond to the member from Nassau Village, to assure him that the derelict vehicle program is ongoing. I would like to repeat a hotline number for persons listening. If your residential waste is not being collected twice weekly, you need to know this number. If your bulk waste, that's old refrigerators, stoves, washing machines, etc., is not being collected at least once a week, you need to know this number. If you see derelict vehicles, the challenge with them, Madam Speaker, we moved them this week, and next week, a couple of days later, put them right back. But we're committed to continue moving them. And if we catch the culprits, punishing them. But the number is 302-5240. The hotline number again, 302-5240. If you see something, call, and please say something. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member. We will revert back to the order of business. Appointment of select committees. Instructions to select committee. Discharge of select committees. Notices for future meetings. The chair recognizes the honorable member for Kalani.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to give notice at the next sitting. I intend to ask the following question. Madam Speaker, in 2018, the F&M administration passed the Register of Beneficial Owners Act to combat issues such as terrorism, financing, money laundering, tax evasion, and corruption. We amended the act in 2019 and twice in 2020. Now the Bahamian people are asking questions about perceived corruption in the office of the Prime Minister with respect to a company called Bahamas Mooring Limited. So I am obliged to ask the Honorable Prime Minister, have you taken the appropriate steps to protect the integrity of the office of the Prime Minister by terminating the employment of the person in your office who was involved in a clear conflict of interest in witnessing the signature of our spouse when he signed and should have been an arm's length contract with the government?
Madam Speaker, the other question. If the answer is no to the previous question, why are you protecting this person who's bringing the reputation of the highest office in the country into disrepute? Third question. Question to the member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis. Do you undertake to the Bahamian people to quickly ensure that commissioners are appointed and put these issues related to alleged corruption in your office before an independent commission of investigations, in keeping with the Independent Commission of Investigation Bill 2025, just recently passed? The other question, Madam Speaker, member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis. Having regard to the allegations of corruption in your office, would you please release the names of the beneficial owners of Bahamas Moorings Limited? The last question, Madam Speaker. Question to the member of Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador, Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis. Would the honorable member for Cat Island, Rumkey, and San Salvador assure the Bahamian people that a comprehensive investigation will be conducted to assess any potential damage to the designated seabed caused by the premature and unsupervised installation of moorings? How many moorings were introduced without the necessary permits and approvals? And what impact, if any, has this had on marine life? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order that the notice be brought up. Order and notices to line the table. Further notices? The chair recognizes the honorable member for Freetown.
I renew all notices on behalf of the government.
Thank you, honorable member. Sinai.
All notices, Madam Speaker, in the name of the opposition.
Thank you, honorable members. Adjournment.
Speaker, I move that the House on its rising do adjourn to Wednesday, March the 19th at 10 a.m.
March 19th. Thank you, honorable member. It has been moved and seconded that the House at its rising do adjourn to Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 10 a.m. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The motion is carried. Final adjournment?
I now move, Madam Speaker, that the House do adjourn to Wednesday, the 19th of March at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Second, thank you, honorable members. It is moved and seconded that the House do now adjourn to Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 10 a.m. As many are in favor, will remain seated. Those opposed will stand. The House now stands adjourned to Wednesday, March 19th, 2025 at 10 a.m.
All rise!